What if I told you that most of what we all think we know about body language is just plain wrong? Yeah. We kind of assume a smile or a nod means the same thing everywhere we go, but as we're about to find out, the silent rules that govern our gestures are written entirely by our culture.
And to prove it, let's just jump right in with a little test.
Okay, so take a look at this. What does this gesture mean to you? For a lot of us, it might signal, frustration, maybe a really bad headache, or even just total shock. But what if it meant something much, much more serious?
Well, in traditional Kazakh culture, this gesture is a huge deal. It's called tübenge kolunda koyma, and it's a formal, devastating act of renouncing your family, your community, your entire world. It's basically a way of saying, from this moment on, you will only ever see the back of my head. Wow!
I'm guessing that probably wasn't your first thought, right? And that right there perfectly illustrates the core idea we're digging into today, the myth of universal body language. We have this idea that a smile is a smile or a nod is a nod, no matter where you are in the world. But as researcher Arshi Berdelieva puts it so well, nonverbal language is just as national as spoken language. What's perfectly understood in one place can be completely meaningless, or worse, mean something entirely different somewhere else. And listen, this isn't just a hunch, we've got the data to prove it. A study that compared 125 common Kazakh gestures to Russian ones found a pretty startling split. Only half were shared between the two cultures. A full 35% were totally unique to Kazakhs, and another 15% had the same meaning but were done with a completely different motion. So, what does this breakdown actually look like in the real world? Let's kind of peel back the layers of this nonverbal code.
First up, you have the easy ones, what researchers call aerial gestures. This is that 50% that feels familiar to most of us. Waving goodbye, shaking your head for no, these are the gestures that kind of trick us into thinking all body language is universal.
Then you have equivalent gestures. Now, this is where the meaning is the same, but the action is different. For example, to signal "be quiet" in Russian or many Western cultures, you'd bring a finger to your lips, right? But the traditional Kazakh gesture for that exact same command is to bite your lip. Same idea, totally different signal. But now, this is where it gets really fascinating. The study calls this next category gestures realities. That's the 35% of gestures that are so deeply woven into Kazakh culture that they just don't have an equivalent anywhere else. A lot of these are gestures of deep, profound respect, often used when greeting elders, honored guests, or during prayer. Things like placing both hands on your chest or bending one knee. These are powerful, nonverbal ways to show reverence that are just rooted in centuries of tradition. But it's not just about unique greetings and what you should do. Some gestures are so culturally specific that doing them is strictly forbidden. These are the taboos.
And we're not talking about a small number here. Among those unique gestures researchers found, a huge portion, over 40 of them, are gestures taboo. And here's the crucial part. For these forbidden actions, there are no acceptable alternatives. You just don't do them, period.
And a ton of these taboos are a direct echo of a nomadic past. I mean, it makes sense, right? When your entire survival depends on your home, your family, and your animals, you develop very strict rules to protect them. Whistling indoors or rocking an empty cradle was seen as tempting bad spirits, and harming a vital animal like a horse was absolutely unforgivable. This next one is a brilliant example of the cultural divide. Standing with your hands on your hips might seem like a casual, even confident power pose in a lot of cultures, but traditionally in Kazakh culture, that posture was reserved exclusively for a woman in deep mourning. To use it outside of that context was just unthinkable. Other forbidden actions are tied to spiritual beliefs and the really intricate rules of social etiquette. Things like not standing on a threshold, never crossing an elder's path, or always using your right hand for giving and receiving, they're all part of a complex social grammar designed to maintain respect and harmony.
So, okay, we've looked at all these unique greetings and hidden taboos. What's the big takeaway here? Why does any of this really matter?
Well, the crucial point is this. None of these are random rules. They are a living history book. Every single gesture is a chapter, written over centuries by the realities of nomadic life and the deep spiritual currents of Islam. Together, they map out what it truly means to be Kazakh.
And this whole case study is just such a powerful reminder of what the anthropologist Edward T. Hall famously said: you just can't separate the way people communicate, with words or without them, from who they are, where they come from, and what they value. They are two sides of the very same coin.
Which leaves us with one last really important question. What are the unspoken rules of your culture? What are the gestures and the postures you use every single day without even thinking about it? The ones an outsider would never, ever guess. Because it's in those hidden, unwritten rules that the true, silent language of a culture is really spoken.